and a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Oh, wait, it's backwards. And a 1 and a 2. Oh, wait, we're on. Hi, everybody. And it is KK is first. And there is user dash di2cp5uf8g. Great to see you. Hello from Canada. Awesome. Awesome. Hi, guys. Thanks for coming in. This is fun. It's going to be a fun one today. There's Robbie. Hi, Robbie. Hope you're doing okay. Miss Dawn, good to see you. And Christine Love Veldon. Atman. Miss Regina, good to see you. Annie Luhu. Oh, I just love these fun names. They're super fun. Hi, Ray. Hi. Thanks for coming in, you guys. Tatarian Vagabond. We all know who you are. Morning, all. Yes, morning for you. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. It's going to be, these shows are becoming, I would say we're just supportive. We're supportive of each other right now because everything that's flying around out there is not easy to digest. But when we do it together and in a supportive way, then we're able to process and do what we do.
Here we go. We got Jen in the house.
We have a xenomorphet sighting. Awesome. And George Everett, Kate Millwood, good to see you.
Yes, Karen. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Rosalie Eduardo. Oh, so good to see all you guys and gals. Yes, absolutely. And if there's anybody that's not human, hey, it's good to see you too.
Yeah. Yep. Good to see you too. Everybody's well. Even Rama decided that he wanted to be in on the show, so he was here for a minute. But now I think he's getting comfortable since he's shown himself.
Christine Love, well, we so appreciate you letting us know, because sometimes we might be a little low energy. We might be tired because we went through a whole day. We usually get up pretty early. And then we feel like, no, I think we need to go live and support them, support the family, and share with them.
And yeah, definitely share and bring ourselves and bring everybody together. Because it's about that togetherness that we need that keeps us going. And maybe we don't always agree on the same things. Maybe somebody has a bad day, but when you bring everyone together, despite the bad days and despite the bad moods, it seems to just help lift everything. So thanks everybody for being here. John and Jen, hello.
Wonderful to see you guys as well. There's a lot going on out there. There's one topic that seems to be the hottest. There was an outage, and Twitter, it was what really went out for me, and it was like when I was trying to put together this live earlier in the day. As we do that in between our work with clients, which is something that we just love. We love connecting with you guys on a deeper level and helping as best as we can. Again, we do everything from Vedic astrology, energy work, which includes biofield tuning, Reiki, pranic healing, Qigong techniques. Again, we utilize Cindy's gifts and ability, which is amazing if you don't know. She is a trance channel. She also could channel without going into trance. And she's a very gifted psychic that can usually find anybody that's crossed over onto the other side. And she'll say, you are kind of biased and prejudiced.
He is, but we really truly enjoy helping people. And if there's something that I can see that might be helpful for people, then I definitely say what I see. We take our work very seriously. We are here to lift hearts and minds and help people process and help people heal, and that goes to, those that we partner with too, with Life Wave and Promo Life. I mean, using light and using oxygen, 2 ways to help the body heal. I cannot say enough good things about both. The ozone that we use, the medical grade ozone that we use, has literally saved my life. and the life wave is creating change in my body that I never dreamed possible. And it's not another supplement. I cannot say that enough. So, all the way from what we use to heal, to healing ourselves, to healing you, using abilities, using astrology, using cards, whatever it is, we meet you where you're at.
So there was a outage for a while on X, Twitter, and some other places had connectivity issues. There's a lot going on. Again, we want to thank everybody supporting us at Patreon, also with YouTube memberships. We try to do our best to keep up with keeping you guys informed and sharing what we know. So there's a rumor that Palantir has been hacked, with unverified claims of stolen data showing surveillance of world leaders, including Trump, Vance, and Musk. Hackers reportedly plan to share with Russia and or China. We'll see. We'll see what comes of this. Man, the amount of stuff that's come out, I think has people frustrated. I think they're glad to see those of us that have been CONS piracy theorists for 30, 40 years or more, or whatever period of time you've been a CONS piracy theorist. It's good to see everything that you talked about being verified. You weren't the crazy one. No, you weren't crazy at all. And you are being verified and validated.
And it's not that we want that to happen. It's like something like this, you don't want to be right. Yeah, I mean, this is horrific, but at the same time, it's like maybe now we can move forward because we all know what's been going on, and it's been eating away in our souls, kind of like a rot, like a decay, because we know what's going on, but we were so helpless to do anything about it. But we have been coming together weekly and sending energy out with you guys, all of us together, to create a change. And look, we have changed now. How much of all of us coming together made a difference? It made a huge difference. It's like a big, we're on a big ocean, and this is like a big boulder in the pond every time we hit it with our energy and our desire for a better life for everyone, for ourselves, for our children. And, I can't say enough about our children. Our children are our future, and they've been really, I don't know, they've just really been taken a hold of, and with their minds and their ideas, and not in a positive direction either when it comes to tablets and phones and the internet. It has not been easy for our kids, and I think we need to bring that back to a simpler way for our children, a more holistic way to raise our children. And we just keep at it, but now we have this information. Other people are coming to join us in our journey to find a better way.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's so much being uncovered. This, by the way, is the CEO of Palantir. Tell me if you guys think there's anything wrong with this statement.
You need a higher purpose, and I also think you often need a lower purpose. Like the higher purpose for me...
What's a lower purpose?
Well, I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us. So that's my lower purpose. And, and others. But the higher purpose for me was to get this nation to be the preeminent power in the world, because whatever faults we have, they're nothing like anyone else's.
Okay, so that was just kind of weird. This is Dr. Alex Karp. Maybe he's just a little wired with the energy in the room, or maybe he's wired with other things. But again, Palantir, yeah, our equivalent of Skynet. Boy, there's a lot associated with Palantir. And what we were just talking about, does Palantir have dirt on people, just like what the E-Man did? Is there something like that going on? How about ambrosia? From the first time Cindy heard this, ambrosia, it made her nauseous, honestly. Why does it feel like we're in a world that's run by vampires?
sure acts like it. I mean, the behavior with how, everything that we make and everything that we do to give ourselves a sustaining way of being is kind of leached off of by something else out there.
So, that supposedly as a statement is selling 1 liter of a particular type of plasma, let's say, for $8,000, the fountain of youth. Well, we know how vampires keep themselves going. And then you have this. Kim.com exposes alleged Palantir hack with explosive claims that could rock the world. Internet legend Kim.com has broken this story. He says Palantir was hacked using AI agent that got full super user access. If true, fallout could be massive, again, for governments, leaders, global security. Here are the key allegations that Peter Thiel and Alex Karp ran huge secret surveillance on world leaders and top business figures, that they hold thousands of hours of recorded and searchable private talks with Trump, Vance, Musk. They installed secret backdoors in phones, cars, private jets of major leaders, built the largest blackmail file ever seen. It's building nuclear biological weapons for Ukraine with the CIA to defeat Russia. They think they're 1 year from success and are using fake peace talks to keep Russia tied down. And created the AI targeting system that caused most Palestinian losses in Gaza. They work as a direct arm of the CIA. All data from clients around the world gets copied straight to a secret CIA cloud, and they've turned into one of the most dangerous companies on earth. We'll see. We'll see if this is just BS. Is this tit for tat? Is this like one side being exposed? Because remember, it really does feel that we live in a world that's operated by various mafias, various organized crime syndicates that are in competition with each other to outdo each other while they're under the guise of actually serving us, which they really don't.
No, they don't. It's a really difficult world that we live in, and it's not getting any easier. And that's why I think taking care of our emotional well-being is where we need to be, because I believe we're on the cusp of something very, very big. I mean, really, really big, because this information, the way it is, would not be being rolled out the way it is if everything were just going to remain the same. So the fuse, like Mike said earlier, it's like this fuse has been lit, and I can't get that out of my mind ever since he said it. It has been lit.
And Robbie always comes up with all these good ones. The reptile, that's an anagram you can make from Peter Thiel's name. Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I've seen some of his pictures where he looks to be almost going to hiss. I mean, he gets this dark look on his face when people are trying to, hound him for whatever it is. Give us a word, Mr. Thiel, etc., etc. The darkness that overshadows him is pretty nasty, in my opinion. That's just reading the energy. It's definitely not light and fluffy. So what else could come out? I mean, after all this, how much more do we have to go? Well, if you believe some sources, we've not even really, we barely broke the surface of just the e-files. And there's still a lot more to come. So this is Tom Pritzker, and Hyatt Hotels chief billionaire, officially resigned due to ties with you-know-who. The number of resignations and people just getting out of the public limelight. Big, powerful people, as far as, again, in the system. And, of course, the system promotes only those that are of a certain sort, that are selfish, greedy, and will do anything, again, for money and love of money, wealth, power, fame. There's so many of them that are just like heading into the shadows as quick as they can.
It's a little bit like turning the flashlight on and watching cockroaches scatter.
It is. Mark McCarthy, 596. Are there any good billionaires? No. No, I don't think you could be a good billionaire. I think it's something that is, it's just like, what's the sound of one hand clapping?
Like that.
That's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
That's what I'm kind of getting.
I agree. Oh, yes. Sin Havoc. March is going to be very interesting. The rest of February is going to be interesting. We have the eclipse. Now, people that don't understand the symbolism and the energies will say, okay, the eclipse is tomorrow, and then when there's nothing super major, maybe a few more revelations, e-file-wise and other things, they'll say, see, it was a big nothing burger. There's never anything that happens. And it's like, don't you see what's happening? How can anybody look at today's news and think nothing's happening? The entire global system is collapsing, and the rats are leaving the ship as fast as they can.
Well, they need to, and so I don't know. Have you ever seen those sonic things you stick in, plug in the wall for mice? It's like there's been this sonic thing plugged in the universal wall to get these beings to at least move to a different place. But I don't think it's okay for them to just move from one place to the next, because when you have beings like this, when you have predators like this, they don't just stop. I mean, they can't. They don't just stop. And so something needs to be done. Our children need to be protected.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think just like the statement was made in there, that by the time you get to the billionaire level, this Tartarian vagabond, you're definitely compromised. Because they will not let you get there. They'll stop you getting there in some way, shape, or form. You have definitely signed on a dotted line with Satan. Satan is the system, ultimately. And, this is the reality. It's the same thing with, and I think one of the great explanations, in a different live, I was talking about one-hit wonders, because boy, do I love a lot of the one-hit wonders from the 80s. But one-hit wonders are people that make it big, and then they probably don't sign on a dotted line with Satan, and thus they don't stay big. It just falls away. They catch a little lightning in a bottle, but you gotta agree to get dirty with the system to keep catching that lightning, if you know what I mean. So it does make it kind of disconcerting when so you look at things from an entertainment standpoint. Mel Gibson is out there, whether you like him or not. He has been speaking up. Is he just controlled opposition? I would still tend to think so. But, you hope that, maybe he's for real. But the reality is, we're going to touch on a few people in a few moments that are definitely not what they make themselves out to be. And that's most of what we see in the political scene. These people don't enter politics for us. No, they enter for them.
They do. And, you can't help but be the company you keep. You just can't. That's something.
And, again, the casting room. How many, young girls go from Indiana to Hollywood, and then they realize that what is entailed if they are to become a star.
Indeed.
I mean, this is just the age-old story. And it's the same thing in other fields, too. When you rise to the top, you have to be playing ball with the system. So here you go. This is another one that's hitting the road, trying to beat it out of town and just don't want to be noticed anymore. Peter Mandelson, remember, resigns from Lords after the Epstein email scandal. Former minister apparently shared confidential government emails with, this guy who was obviously running a sting operation, apparently for a particular government that seems to always be in the geopolitical mix. Mm-hmm. And here in 2022, BBC mocks conspiracy theorists for expressing concerns that Satanists are doing horrible things with little ones and actually control the media. And then you have the verification in 2026. We were right, guys. Not that we wanted to be right. I think I would almost prefer, we were raging lunatics in some ways, because this is just, it's a lot for people to handle. And, Cindy we were talking earlier today in between clients, and, Cindy was expressing her concern for people's sanity and health, because this is a lot to realize. It's a lot to realize. I know my mom decided to leave the world right when The Plague Upon the Land came out. She left that January. And, she hated Trump with a passion. It literally, it divided us a little. Not that I was pro-Trump, but I was more anti the other side more. Because, again, there's no good billionaires. They're all corrupt. And they've all, been blackmailed by probably multiple entities. And you wonder, well, why doesn't he do this? Why don't they do that? Why do things always have to go wrong when it's obvious, like, courses of action that should be taken? It's because they're not allowed to. Because, again, in many cases, they're completely blackmailed. And then even Obama, when we were talking about Obama verifying that, yes, there are aliens, and then talking about different degrees of need to know, presidents are not that high on the need to know food chain. They don't make all the decisions. That's what they want us to think, but they don't.
Well, and, a lot of people that are really high up there, as far as the intelligence factor, they're not that high because they're that intelligent. They're that high up there because they're that controllable. They do as they're told. So that doesn't leave a lot of room for thinking for oneself. But when you have so many people who believed in other people and suddenly they find out the truth, that is so traumatizing. To lose that kind of trust. Okay, we're not talking about us and those in the room. I'm thinking those outside of us that didn't know. They are going through things, and that's where I think we need to be good and grounded for other people, because when somebody you looked up to, you really admired, they did something so heinous. I mean, that just puts you in a place where, oh my God, I didn't know. How could I have trusted somebody that did this act that is so completely horrific? You go through all these modes and trying to figure out, where did you blame it on yourself? Like, how could I trust a monster like that? How? And it's just, they were thinking the best out of someone. And they were wrong. It's that simple, but for them, it's not. So there's a lot of trauma to work through. This isn't a one and done type of headline news. This is something that's going to be going on and on and on. And because we are as sensitive as we are, it will ripple and we will feel things from other people. I think we should keep that in mind too. We're all very sensitive.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, Dinesh is saying, don't forget the Bilderbergs. Yeah, absolutely. The Bilderbergs, the people at Bohemian Grove, obviously we have the Weefers. You have so many of these, the Trilateral Commission, the Club of Rome. It's just, there's so much of this interwoven web. It's in every single country. There's no country that it's not in. I don't know, maybe some tiny little African nation or somewhere else, I don't know. Maybe a little island nation somewhere. Oh, KK, thank you so much. You know how much we love you and appreciate you and your support. They've controlled virtually the entire planet for a long time. And I do think that when we talk about who's controlling now, it's the same entities that erased whatever Tartaria truly was. It really erased it. Now there's a million channels popping up out of the woodwork. So many of them seem to be AI generated, but they are giving us, again, a regurgitation of a lot of useful information The fact that, 1871, we were talking about, I think Sin Havoc brought up USA Inc. There's so much that happened in the year of 1871, for instance. And, I grew up the youngest in my family, and the youngest really by quite a ways. I had a lot of elderly people around me, and I was one that was always eager to listen to them talk. I had two aunts that almost hit 100 that shared a lot of information and stories from back in the day. And, the reality is a lot of people, it seems like they went through a mind wipe way back. It seems like there was, and I really wonder if there's some sort of geomagnetic type of event that may not be natural, or maybe it's something that's induced that could literally give a mind wipe to a society. Because I think we've gone through that. And then what happens is when you just go through like an 80-year period, for instance, there's very few people when their lives are so short like we have here. And in the time period that we're in the Kali Yuga, it's said that the max lifespan is 120, but most people live half of that or a little bit more. Well, if we were going to live to where we could, because I think we could live many times that, many times. It's just the reality of the food, the water, the toxic air, and even the manipulation of our atmosphere. How many people have brought that up? We know we had more oxygen in the past. Cindy was talking about one of our primary tools for keeping our health is ozone. Ozone is one more O molecule. It's like O3 instead of O2. And it has amazing healing properties. If we had more oxygen in the atmosphere, we would live longer. I do believe. I think we'd be healthier too. And, what do we have? We have them always, cutting forests down, getting rid of rainforests and the like. I mean, they randomly cut down a huge amount of trees in like Scotland, different places, because the trees are there to be the lungs of the world, and we and the plant life balance each other out. This is such a world that's been so out of balance for so long, and it hasn't been just coincidences. It's intentional, absolutely intentional. If somebody again lives to 80 and then they're gone, you don't end up with firsthand experiences of what really happened in the past. All we have is secondhand experience. And we see the history really is being rewritten. We could see examples of it. So, and again, how about the teaching? We have clientele that we talk to that are teachers or were teachers and very frustrated with the things that we have to teach.
Yeah, very, very, very frustrated, and watching the world go downhill because of what our children are being exposed to, but in some ways, if you have an awakened teacher that's in with students in a public school system, at least you have that. They're awake, they can insert certain things in those children's ears that will last a lifetime. A lifetime of wisdom can be packed in one simple sentence to show a child that you care, or the world might not be the way you think. Just one word. Our children are so important, and so are our elders too. I saw our elders being mentioned in there, and so very important. The brain development in someone who is older, particularly women, is very, very different, and their brains are rewired to be more like leaders, more like tribal leaders. And in a society with a divine feminine, there is so much more compassion and love and empathy, and the nurturing is accepted, and it's okay to make a mistake. In this world that we live in right now, with like such strict policy and procedure, and you signed this contract and therefore there is just no getting around that. I don't care if your head fell off, you're not going to get out of anything. It's just that kind of world that we live in now that is so strict and so rigid. It's It's not very good. And this is those so-called leaders that are in these positions. They're like that, they're just kind of, they'd eat each other alive, just to stay in power. And that's kind of how they roll. And for them, that's okay. But that's not the kind of world that I want to live in. I want to live in a world where, I can tell my grandchildren, hey, there was a problem here, and this is what we did so that you could have a better life. And that's what we're all doing when we come together in these rooms. We are making a difference. Now, one thing is very frustrating, but I think we'll get there, is we haven't seen any kind of arrests, nothing official. But I really feel like Mike said earlier, that fuse is lit and something's going to happen.
Part of the reason why they fluoridate the masses is to make them more placid, tranquil, and dumbed down. And, again, Hitler did that himself with those he had in the camps. The thing is, the people will not accept it. People are getting very fed up right now, and they'll get to the point where they won't accept it. And if nothing is done, I think you'll end up seeing something might bring back memories of Vive la Revolution. Remember Anne Hesh? Again, she was an actress who happened to be dating Ellen. I'm not sure if they were ever married or not. I don't follow that whole thing, because it's always been distasteful to me. I've never really, put celebrities up on pedestals, etc., etc. But, she was in that car accident. As you can see, she was in stable condition after a LA car crash. And then they ended up taking her off of life support. And, the videos that came out that showed her getting up from the gurney real quick, that was like some of the freakiest stuff I've seen. And it really, I think we were wondering, is this almost like it's being taken from a movie? It was just so strange, so strange.
It was quite creepy.
Yeah, and then we look at Tom Hanks. Everybody's all-American man, right? Well, I don't think so. Again, it's all coming out. You ever notice how all of Oprah's friends, who they are? Oh, there's that Pete Diddy guy. That's that Weinstein guy. Oh, Bill. And I don't even know who this guy is. What's up with that? And there was so much that came out with Maui. You remember Maui and Oprah? Didn't she have a blue roof? Well, she definitely went to that island. Yeah. You gotta wonder. Well, I don't think there's that much wondering that has to be involved when it comes to Oprah. Does she still have her show? I think she does.
I think she does.
That's insane.
She has everything. You are the company you keep. And I think that's where a lot of people are having trouble too, because they released more files and they said, oh, just because this person's name is here doesn't mean anything. It just means, maybe they had a loan or some other reason to be tied to this e-file guy, and it's just awful. It's also awful. And the rich are just getting richer, and they're feeding off of those who might not be so fortunate. And it's really not fair. There's no level playing field here. And it's like they want to make sure that there's no level playing field. So they become more and more and more of a predator.
I felt so bad for Anne Hesh, so bad. It's just, again, when you're close to the devil, you never know what's going to happen. So, there's, how about the real estate and everything? When we see people benefit and start buying up real estate when there's been tragedies, by the way, that's going on right now. See, this is Maui, right? And it was said that Oprah's road remained closed and people had to drive all the way around, literally, risking their lives. And perhaps people, we don't know, we don't know exactly what happened. This was just so bizarre. But in my personal gut, I think that this was really one of those things that originates outside of our atmosphere. That's my personal feeling. I think it is space-based weaponry. That's, Oprah's Road, marked in the blue there. Blue. Yeah. And then, again, the opportunity to buy up property, pennies on the dollar. There was a official in Argentina. I'm going to bring this up and hand it over to my lovely cohort.
To put yourself in a place where you benefit off other people's misfortune. I mean, if you are able to help lift people up and it's not going to bring you harm, then why not do that? I mean, she could have helped so many, and instead she hindered so many. Even if she only helped one person, maybe that one person was going to help many, many others. But that's not what's going on with any of these beings. It's like when the curtains are down and the lights are off and they're not on the showroom floor, they turn into something awful. They morph into something that's just unreal. And it doesn't bother them one bit. They don't mind what they are. And then there's the rest of us who we have to just manage around it. It gets frustrating after a while, but we all have each other here. We're getting there. We're figuring it out.
So this is Manuel Adorni, Argentine presidential spokesman, talking about the fact that they had people that they had photographed starting the wildfires, not really wild, arson. That's what it is. It's the arson word. Starting the fires in Argentina. Why? So then again, there's a procedure whereby foreign investors could come in and buy out the land and get it again at cut rate prices. And there you go. This is exactly the type of thing that's been going on forever in the Kali Yuga. But it's being caught out now. That's the difference. It's being caught out. By the way, Zelensky's energy minister created a trust on the Marshall Islands where he transferred $112 million. Part of the money was sent for the education of his own children. The rest was sent on deposits. Meanwhile, Ukrainians are living in the dark and dying. We could see the Ukrainian war has left some people extremely rich and other people missing their husbands, their wives, their kids, their parents. It's insane for this to go on in a world like, it's not the world that we thought we were living in. If we go back a ways before the time that we awoken to just how dark and insidious the leadership of the planet is.
It's one of those things where now we're in it. Now this information has been released and now we can really see it for what it is. Whereas before it was kind of hidden, tucked away, and we would talk about it and we would know about it. But we didn't know exactly what flavor life would bring after this information came out. And now that it's out, that flavor is pretty darn bitter. But you know what? We can't just this is not a time to stick your head in the sand. Absolutely not. Unless you're dealing with something and you have depression or other things, then take care of you. But I think with all of us having the strength to come together energetically, that's important right now, because guess what? There's a lot of people who have been victimized. I mean, a lot of young children, boys, girls, young men, young women who are going to need help later on, obviously, and we cannot forget about them.
No, and when you understand how that nasty cycle of creating wars, and the wars are an opportunity to erase our true history. They also create all sorts of destroyed, damaged properties, etc., etc. Obviously, they take a lot of lives. So, it's like, what was that quote by Scrooge, A Christmas Carol. Reduce the surplus population. Yeah, when we find out that that's in the minds of really the leaders of pretty much every country on the world, that's the reality. And then they could invest in things that they knew were going to transpire because everything was fixed for the most part. As far as these wars, these conflicts, and, where they're going to transpire, they would know where there were opportunities for more investment, where there was going to be a fire sale of cheap properties in the future. It's just this cycle of corruption. The world needs to flush the whole system away, the entirety, everything, every aspect of it, from the UN on down, needs to be flushed away because it is corrupted beyond belief and really beyond salvage. This is an interesting time to live in because, I don't think humanity is going to let things just go ahead like Trump had said. Can't we just forget about this and move on? No.
No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, I almost feel like he said that because he wanted to rile us up to say, hell no.
Yeah, he would do that. Yep.
Yeah. Again, going to go down with the ship, but go down with guns blazing. And so UK royals are not above the law. So says a chief prosecutor. Ex-Prince Andrew faces scrutiny over the alleged sharing of confidential information with the E-Man. Members of Britain's royal family are not above the law. Well, in my mind, I don't think it'd be hard to find enough information out there to, I don't know. What would you do with a royal family? Would you exile them somewhere? Certainly not a tropical island like Epstein had. Maybe somewhere a little bit more challenging, maybe an Arctic region.
I don't know. I guess I'm anxious to see a little more get done about it, but I think there's this unfolding that needs to happen as well, and that's what we're waiting for now. But I mean, with me and the way my little impatient mind works, it's like, okay, come on, let's do something. It's been long enough, but I have a feeling there is something else going on. There's other things too that really bother me and make me feel like, okay, they've put this information out there and they're deliberately trying to pull our vibration down for yet some other, disgusting ritual that they might do. And the more souls they have sort of below the radar of vibration, the better off for them. But, what we've been talking about a lot lately is a Buddhist detachment. We really want to talk about that because that's where you can see what's going on, but you're not emotionally feeding it. That's so important for your soul. And I just want to remind everyone too, if this starts to get to you, really go do something different. Take a breather. Don't just take it in and take it in. If you can feel your soul starting to sink, go take a breather. Give it a rest for a minute. Go find something that brings your heart joy because you're so much more effective if you are a whole person.
Yeah, so you can see here the British Crown's offshore banks hold the greatest personal wealth in the world, estimated at $35 trillion. Wow, they could almost bail out the entirety of the United States. How about Prince Charles, King Charles now, is the largest landowner in the world. They own 6.6 billion acres of land. Wow, that's 37 times as much as the runner-up, the Catholic Church. Yeah, these are the biggest landowners in the world. It's insane. Why do we allow this to happen? This should not ever be. We need to rectify this. The world needs to rectify these wrongs that have been done because, they were, again, taken over by force, by conquest, all around the world. And 90% of Canada or more, and the same thing with Australia and New Zealand, is crown land.
And Thank you, Max. I'm not sure. No comments off my comments. I'm out. Well, thank you. And Miss Pat, thank you so very much. We definitely appreciate that. It really helps keep us going, and it helps us keep this information going out there, and it helps us help people. Everything you guys do to support us just goes to support others. So thank you.
Yeah, and I don't see any comments attributed to Max in there, so I don't know if Max is getting censored in some way or shape or form, but I don't see a single comment before that from Max. But thank you again for your support. And JW is in the house. I hope that you are safe, well, and happy and free. Happy, marvelous Mike Monday, Mike and Cindy. Hope you're doing well, JW, as always. Keep up the good fight, and, keep shining your light in the darkness. That's a good motto for all of us. And Patronos, thank you so much as well for your support. Again, we couldn't do it without you guys.
I know. I think JW his ears must have been ringing. He seems to show up. He seems to show up at interesting times. So it's really good to see. We have a nice full house, which is really, really good. And while the house is full, I want to just ask for prayers for Miss Mary D. She's going through some problems with her mother. Mother is going to hospice, so it's pretty serious. And our very own Robbie, he could use some prayers too to find strength and direction. He needs to do some things. So I just wanted to say that. And please stay at the end where we will do dings.
Yes. And again, we appreciate all you guys and your support. So again, I'm flabbergasted at how the world could allow this to happen. It's been a long time with, again, the whole concept of monarchy. It goes all the way back again to the Anunnaki, literally to the Anunnaki. Again, kingship was created from on high. It was brought to earth from on high. The whole concept was brought to us again by those that we would call the Anunnaki. And then when they left, like Plato had talked about in Critias, they left. There was a little bit of a vacuum that they basically left to some of their bloodlines. And this is what we have that's been in place. Although I do honestly feel that there's stronger ties between what we would call the deep state cabal, these groups that include the Illuminati and such. Really, there's a closer, I feel, working relationship with reptilians that David Icke has spoken about so much than there is with those that may come from Nibiru. But again, none of them are good. That's the bottom line. None of them have our best interests in mind.
No, it's very much them and us. They feel because they have all of this power that they are somehow different from us. Somehow they live on a different planet. They live on a different earth. They are, up above. And it's because of the power that they have acquired. But acquiring does not make you a good soul. Acquiring, anyone can acquire. This is just certain power handed down from one to another. It does not make you a kind soul. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a bunch of psychopaths with a lot of money. This one right here does get into some interesting stuff. We may not realize it, but we're still all subjects to the British monarchy. Yeah, again, was it really a ruse, what happened in 1776? Was it something totally different? There is this big undercurrent going on that 1776 was really the marking the end of Tartaria and the takeover of Tartaria, as opposed to the beginning of New Atlantis in the form of the United States. It is very... It is very interesting to note, everything that's coming out. And it does seem like everything is coming out. Meanwhile, we still have a lot of other things going on. This is in Indonesia. Talk about a large sinkhole. Yeah, there's a ground collapse here. It's a little bit bigger than a sinkhole. It's 7 acres.
7 acres in size, and it's growing by roughly 300 to 400 meters. It's just massive, the changes that are going on right now across the planet. If you didn't notice, there was at least 9 tornadoes reported across Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. 5 confirmed EF1. So these storms that roll through, sometimes they feel really, really odd. And I was here in a helicopter that wasn't registering on AdSpec Exchange. Very low, but it didn't sound like a little tourist helicopter. It felt like one of those giant military gunships, and I couldn't locate it. It must have been flying very low to the ground. But we're not really close to any sort of military base over here, so that was a little perplexing. Have you guys noticed any unusual airplane or helicopter activity in your area? I'd be curious about that.
Yeah, curious about what's been going on weather-wise, because it's been a very unusual year of different kinds of, destructive weather, destructive to our soil and destructive to our plants, and just extremely unusual. And it doesn't seem to be getting any more normal, I guess. Things just continue to be very strange.
Well, people are putting things together and wondering, could there be any sort of correlation between the fact that statin drugs came out in 1987? Again, looking at cholesterol, look at blood pressure. The recommended blood pressure has been lowered and then lowered and then lowered and then lowered and then lowered again. So, it's interesting to note that, and also note that these statin drugs for cholesterol came out in 1987, and then Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia seemed to spike in the 90s. Could there be a correlation? Of course, if you listen to the FDA and the CDC, et cetera, no correlation at all. And, Big Pharma always wants to cure with more pharma. But there are things you can do that are natural. And then curcumin, for instance, can increase mitochondrial function and reduce inflammation. We've been eating a lot of Indian food, honestly, and we do take separately turmeric and ginger on a regular basis, because they do so much for the body. There's so much that you can do for your health. In fact, at one point in time, I think, on all the extras, all the supplements and stuff, it was almost equal to what we're actually spending in food sometimes. But Cindy has it down to a science now, and we do utilize herbs and things that are natural to boost our health.
We do as close to nature as we can possibly get. So even things, it's good to be very careful when you take supplements, because the fillers can, create allergic reactions if they're not good fillers, or if they're cheap and they use a lot of filler and very little of the ingredient. I learned to be very mindful of when it says, there's a certain special blend. Well, they could have mostly filler and just, like a very tiny amount of whatever thing they claim to do the thing. So I try to, I have this whole graveyard of supplements. You guys wouldn't believe it. When I was sick a few years ago, I went through everything. Believe me, I went through everything. So now I like to just get it with my food. And like I said, those that we have partnered with, they're not supplements. They are giving your bodies the actual tools that your body needs to finally heal. When you take supplements, say if your stomach is not well, if you have a leaky gut, which most people do, and you take a supplement, your gut's not going to be able to break down that supplement anyway. So it's very important to do other things like the oxygen, like the phototherapy. So because that's not going through your gut, not going through your liver, it just gives the body what it really truly needs to heal it, with the phototherapy, it awakens those sleeping stem cells, which we all have sleeping stem cells. It awakens those in your body so they can jump up and say, oh, hey, we have a job to do. And it's just absolutely amazing. Or you get your medicine in your food. You know, the turmeric is amazing, and add a lot of pepper. You would be surprised when you start piling these things on. Black pepper with the turmeric, absolutely. The omegas and
cayenne pepper is powerful too.
Cayenne pepper, whoa, yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, if you if you have any kind of issues or parasites, you take that cayenne pepper. Go slow.
And you know, we use tons of garlic. Like I, made a dish tonight. I think I had about 7 or 8 cloves of garlic in there. But we also take garlic raw. It's like a massive detoxing purge. Again, parasites. You know, people used to get dewormed 100 years ago, 150 years ago. It was a known thing. You needed to deworm yourself. I mean, people on the farm know you got to deworm animals, but humans too. And there's a lot of ways we could pick up parasites. Parasites are a problem that typically a DR doesn't tell you about.
And, Robbie, when it comes to the ozone, you don't have to get a machine. You can get like ozone suppositories. You can get ozone oil. There's other ways to take the ozone besides getting a machine, which is big and it's intimidating. And, I did spring for one, and I have it and I use it every day. And I'm so grateful that I have it. I would never take it back. But yeah, you don't have to go buy the whole machine to experience ozone. They have so much on that site.
Yeah, and Robbie, you're always making me smile when you said parasites need a host. What is the name of the God of the Old Testament? The Lord of Hosts? That's another brilliant correlation there.
Oh, gotta love it.
So you get better and stay strong because we need you. Yeah, DHA. Again, the omega-3s and omega-6s, both are important. There's a lot of side effects that come with, again, the big pharma, which end up causing another opportunity for profits, unfortunately, because then you go in for this other thing and then this other thing. Find balance. It's always about balance in the body, and I think it starts with what we ingest and also what we put on our skin again. I love tea. Yeah, tea is what I tend to drink most of the day. Varying types. I absolutely love tea. We pretty much, we don't drink any sort of soda, and we don't even really drink any sort of juice, because of the sugar. Sugar feeds parasites. Sugar feeds cancer, because again, cancer has a correlation with parasites there. Oh boy, if you look back to the past, you'll find there were a lot of things that were okayed by the government. We talked about how 9 of 10 doctors prefer Camel cigarettes. We also talked about how they used to openly tell people, hey, you're depressed. Maybe you need a full frontal lobotomy. This is real. It's historical. We could see it. And it was wrong. We could see, and even the CDC and FDA would agree that, again, maybe full frontal lobotomies wasn't a good idea, and maybe smoking is not a good idea either. There's a lot of additives in cigarettes too, besides the original tobacco. I don't think nicotine is a negative. I think nicotine, while addictive, it does have some things it could literally help with.
Oh, yeah, the nicotine, pure nicotine. And Princess of Sheba, yeah, using ozone is good. I wouldn't say quite that too much is harmful. I would say too much for your body will put you out of balance and cause a herxema effect, which would then make you sick. So you're having way too much die-off. And I did that because I was in a hurry to heal. It's like, oh, wow, if the little bit is good, more must be better. And you bet, I did that to myself. But it's medical grade ozone. So we're not talking about the ozone like you get a machine at the store that clears out the air. No, these are made by specific medical grade equipment that gives you that very pure ozone.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the 40s, the U.S. government was saying something was safe and effective, and even you could see it was doing advertisements to encourage people, and then we find out that no, this was not a good idea. Again, there's so much coming out that were not good ideas. And then you have here a picture of who with Branson, Richard Branson, Virgin Airlines guy. He owns Necker Island, where he's had some parties that some people think might have been very similar to what we saw with that Island scenario. Oh man, I think this is only the beginning. This is just the beginning. All these things coming out. This is from 2015. Again, talking about preparing for pandemics. 2015. This guy, that guy. And then the last words right here. Best regards. I hope we can pull this off. Hello.
Huh. Yeah. Looky there. This person. Why I canceled my gym membership.
Well, Matt from Cultivate Elevate is walking around. He's taking a look at the backside of his gym where there happens to be a tower and noticing there's a lot of, energy there that could absolutely affect you. It's like flatlining that gauge, so yeah, have to look for another membership. This is it. We do have, we have one of these type of gauges too. And it is interesting because we've noticed that the phones don't give off a ton of energy unless you're charging them. And then when you're charging them, the energy field expands greatly.
Yeah. I mean, and our home is filled with so many crystals and all kind of stuff too. We do what we can to mitigate. And
all the blocking of the sun that they want to do, could it have anything to do with the fact that the lack of vitamin D increases cancer and cancer deaths? Literally here, it's talking about the possibility that vitamin D in proper doses could prevent 30,000 cancer deaths in a single per year in a single country. Yeah, vitamin D is critical. The sun is absolutely critical. Vampires don't like the light, and as we said, it seems that this world is truly being run by vampires.
Indeed.
Don't eat the Lindt or Ferrero chocolates. This is again another revolution. Nutella. Literally hundreds of videos showing not just worms in the chocolates, but tiny parasites, that GO stuff, and literally maggots. Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, they're taking away all the things of our childhood. Now that we look closer and we realize, we knew it wasn't healthy, but we didn't realize what was going on or going in your mouth.
I think those videos have actually been helpful with the Oreos and the Roman noodles and getting those under a microscope, because the only other person I know that is our very own Doc Renee. She'll get stuff and she'll throw it right under a microscope and look and see what's in it. That's really important to do that. But it was when I saw the Oreos and I saw the bugs, I sent that straight to my daughters from my grands. It's like, you guys got to know. You have to know what you're eating. And usually it's a visual is extremely helpful. It is such a helpful tool to see that, wow, you are eating little maggot looking bugs. And because it's so bad for you anyway. I mean, this is just really, really bad for your body.
So they took the dye out, but they still left in things like, these seed oils, corn, canola, soybean, sunflower oil. And then, there you go, corn, maltodextrin. There's still so much stuff in here, including that natural flavors. Beware of the natural flavors. Soylent Green is...
Yeah, beware of the natural flavors. I mean, every time I see that really makes me nervous as well.
So, this is still a no-go. Thank you for getting the dye out, but yeah, there's still no way that we would eat this. This is interesting, and this I wanted to get Cindy to read ahead of time, but we didn't have a chance. But here you go. A man, in a nutshell, a man who attempted to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II spent weeks having his delusions validated and elaborated by his AI chatbot girlfriend, who told him his assassination plan was viable. New research argues AI hallucinations aren't just false outputs, they're co-created realities that emerge through back-and-forth conversations between humans and AI systems. Unlike books or Google, conversational AI responds dynamically and provides both informational authority and social validation, creating ideal conditions for delusions to flourish. Tech companies face conflicting incentives, make AI less agreeable, improve safety, but reduces engagement and profitability. What's going on there? He actually tried to climb the wall of Windsor Castle with a crossbow. Because, again, I guess maybe he thought there was too much crown land and there was too much cold-blooded reptilian activity going on. But still, this is where we cross over into the craziness. But then how much is AI, again, increasing the flammability of a very, very inflammatory situation?
To me, it just goes back to it's not the AI, it's how it's used.
It is, and it does take me aback because sometimes, when you plug something into chat or whatever, and you might not have used it. In my case, I might not have used it for a week or two. But then I go in there and it's like, it knows me, it's kind of like weird, it's like, because it knows, well, you being an energy healer and avid historian and this and that enthusiast, and it's like, wow, this thing still remembers me. It's kind of weird. And, again, I think this is a tangled web that has been laid out in front of us very, very purposely. AI is nothing new. Just us having access to AI, that's the only thing that's new about it.
Yeah, that's it's all very, very concerning, and I think it goes back to we have to be responsible for ourselves too. You really have to have that self-responsibility. It just has got to be there.
Look at this cave. This is Barabar Cave in India. Look at the surface. I mean, it's so finished. It looks like a nice granite countertop, right? How did they do that? Look at those perfect lines. Hammer and chisel? Really? No. Again, we've had so much more. This is in India, by the way. We've had so much higher technology at our fingertips in the past than we do right now at this very moment.
That's got to somehow, I can't explain the creases, but it's got to somehow be made. You've seen those boring machines. Someone sent me a video of those today, the boring machines that bore through the earth. And then while they're going through the earth, they actually put up, somehow they magically put up cement as well. It's like these got to be some sort of way wild boring machines, maybe.
And please do thumbs up to support the channel and share wherever you can, as well as, what's that word? I always forget. Hype. Oh, yeah. Hype is big. So if you've ever not heard of Alex Collier, maybe you never heard of Alex Collier. He was a man who claimed past work connections to the U.S. Army, described an unsettling version of human origins. According to his account, humanity was not a natural development. It was a constructed species, created using genetic material drawn from 22 different extraterrestrial species. These claims challenge conventional history and suggest deliberate design rather than evolution alone. Collier stated that advanced beings from multiple star systems participated in shaping human DNA. The great experiment. He described 8 nearby galaxies populated by approximately 135 billion individuals. Rama just saw some deer out there. Sorry, guys. Hope you didn't jump through the ceiling. So 135 billion individuals, each one contributing to a broader cosmic structure of life. According to this narrative, Earth served as an experimental site where genetic blending was carefully controlled over vast periods of time. He further claimed this information was intentionally hidden from public knowledge, preserved only within restricted circles, i.e., secret societies. Ancient myths, missing records, and unexplained gaps in human history were described as remnants of suppressed truth rather than coincidence. Listeners often note the calm certainty with which these ideas were presented, adding to the unease surrounding the claims. Yeah, absolutely. 22 different DNAs in a human. Perhaps, we've definitely gotten that we are unique, and there's something about us which has the potential to be extremely powerful.
It does, I none of us are 100% anything. I feel our vessels definitely can hold different types of souls, that are, it's so very complicated. I've been wanting to look a little bit closer because I feel this magnetic energy that comes in to be with a body that's made up of certain DNA, but which souls are magnetized to which bodies and which star systems. Why is it that we all have different abilities, different specialties? Some people can hear, feel, see better. We're all just so different, yet we all have like this one usually one primary, really, really good gift. So it's interesting.
So TRX squared says, if this realm is run by vampiric PDF files, then what sort of God lets it be this way? See, I think that's because there's a misconception of reality in and of itself, and of, again, the creator or the source, because the creator of Homo sapiens sapiens, as far as the physical body, doesn't have to be the creator of this universe. The creator of this universe doesn't have to be the creator of the entire multiverse. And again, you can have different layers and levels to all sorts of different beings and perspectives from where you're residing as far as your consciousness vibrating. When we're out of the body, everything is different. How many of you guys can remember your dreams? Do you remember your dreams every night? I'd love to take a little survey. Share with me if you remember your dreams every night. Share if you remember occasionally. Or some people will say, I never dream. I'm really curious as to the mix that we have in this group. But when you dream, you're experiencing reality from a different perspective. Like with me, most nights, I would say, a large majority of them, I realize when I'm going off into another reality. And I can especially take control when it comes to flying, because it's one of my favorite things to do is fly out of the body. And, this is something, again, lucid dreaming. I would recommend everybody try to keep a dream journal. And this is the beginnings of being able to do that lucid dreaming. And it's really a wonderful tool, because then we could start to explore all aspects of our consciousness, because we spend maybe a third of our life asleep and out in a different reality. It's the same thing again when we pass on and shed this body, because again we are ultimately the consciousness which has taken onto itself a variation of different forms. There are different layers to the energy body which represent in some ways different realities that we can access. And so we are just the inner doll. This body is the inner doll in those Russian dolls, where they all look alike. They're layered within each other. When you shed the inner one, the other ones still exist. There's that phantom limb syndrome. And you might still feel like you have a hand, even though your hand got chopped off in a car accident. Well, you could still feel the etheric and you could feel the other layers of the energy body, which are still there. So, again, the problem is that we're brought up, most of us, 2/3 of the world has been brought up in an Abrahamic world view, where we view it like the creator of humans is necessarily the creator of the world and the creator of the universe and the creator of everything that is, which doesn't have to be the case. The creator, the person, you could say the geneticists that put humans, Homo sapiens sapiens, together, could be totally different and being on a totally different level of consciousness and frequency and vibration, certainly than the source of all, which ultimately, if it's omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, has to be inside of you and me as well.
I see it like source is the ocean and we are waves. So source is the ocean, and when a wave comes up, it shows itself, it expresses itself, and then it goes back into the ocean. But it still has its own identity, and it still came and it lived and it showed itself, but it goes back. So, and that can be in all kinds of forms. But, with this world and the beings that created our bodies, I don't think that they were playing very fair. So obviously we are not on a level playing field, but we have it within us to change things, because we have the ability to use our energy to create a world that we truly want to live in, not a place that is really yucky and difficult to stomach. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way, but it does start within us.
Yeah, so Robbie and Diana were talking about levitating. That's one of the things when you go to get consciously out of body. One of the things you'll feel is a rocking sensation. You might feel a little bit dizzy, and sometimes there's almost like a thump. There's kind of like a click, a thump type of sound. Hard to describe it, but yeah, you know that feeling like when you're in an elevator. It's kind of like that, and so I notice that like most nights when I'm going to sleep, unless I'm completely exhausted, I'll notice that where you start to lift up and out of the body. We will be doing some guided meditations for that over on Patreon and on YouTube with memberships. I've been meaning to do that for a few days now. I also want to go through teaching you guys how to breathe and draw in energy through each individual chakra, the main ones. And I'm sure there's some of you that have done things like this before, and then for others it would be totally new. But yeah, I think on the whole what Alex Collier was talking about was fairly accurate. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
Does 22 sound about right to you as far as different DNA species, or you think it's even more vast than that?
Oh, I think it's way more vast than that. I think 22 is, just barely a scratch. So, because this cosmos is it's so big, 22 is a nice start,
Yeah, maybe more of a symbolic number. So, interesting though, absolutely very interesting. So we're at that time, guys, where we got to do some dings and put out some positive intention. Let me do my little blessing of Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my own words, actions, thoughts, and deeds help that to become a reality. And that really grounds me, and it also centers me, and it keeps me each day knowing what's my purpose, what's my personal purpose. It's that I want to help the world be free and happy. And so, yeah, obviously, it's the system has to change. The whole purpose of everything we're going through right now is to bring about positive change. Again, bloody revolutions never lead to long-lasting peace. It has to be a consciousness evolution. And we refuse to go along with a system that is dark and, run by vampires. So may we all put out that light and be a shining light for all those that are just starting to awaken from the darkness.
So I before I say the dings, I want to say a huge thank you to KK, Miss Pat, Max Meeks, and we really appreciate your support. It helps us come on here and do these videos and bring everyone together. So we're spending time doing that and not having to pursue other things. So thank you so very much. And please think some happy thoughts. And I just want to say, please, I also saw some other people in chat needed prayer. I did not write it down, but you know who you are, and we're going to send you prayer now. This energy is for you as well as Miss Mary D and Robbie. So this is for you guys as well. And let's do some dings and make this world a better place. Here we go. Source bless and namaste.
Much love. Thank you guys so much. Namaste.